The Nigeria First policy is an initiative introduced quite recently by the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Well, it's a strategic initiative that is aimed at revitalizing the economy by prioritizing our local industries and, of course, reducing Nigeria's dependency on imports. Well, it's a long road, you would agree with me, a stretch between policy development and effective implementation. Well, this morning we are going to be x-raying rather the role of the media. Turns out to be a major stakeholder in this journey. We're going to be talking about the role of the media in effectively implementing Nigeria First policy. Our guest is the communication consultant Vivian Douglas, joins us via Zoom to do justice to this topic. Good morning, Vivian. Can you hear us clearly?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning. All right, Vivian, you are a communication consultant, and we all understand that is a long stretch from policy development to effective implementation. And there are stakeholders, major key players in this journey, and the media is one of them. What are some of the roles you think the media can play to ensure effective implementation of Nigeria First policy? Because it sounds really promising, but what can the media do to fast track and ensure effective implementation?
Okay, thank you very much, Signature TV. The thing about what the media can do, it's what the media have always done. And what does that mean? Simply being in position to get the right information out there to the people. But as much as we want to talk about what can the media do, which is like what we're doing right now, basically, it's important to also point out that beyond what we think the media can do, the media also need to have the right information. For instance, where is the policy framework for this Nigeria First economic policy? That's what I want to look at it from. Where is the policy framework? You're sitting in the studio, I'm here. I was reading through even last night. Where is the policy framework? Because until we have the policy framework that I will see how implementable it is, the media, I mean, you're sitting down, I'm sitting down here, you are asking me a question, but we need to have something to work with. So, okay, this announcement has been made. I saw what the president shared on his X handle. I think that was yesterday or 2 days ago. All of those 10 points, as much as they are noble, we want to understand the nitty gritty. It's not enough to have a press briefing and announce this, or this is where the government is doing after the Fed meeting. I believe that the Minister of Communication, Minister of Information, need to sit down with the media first and foremost, break this down into bits, get the media organizations on board first. When you get them on board and give out the right information, that is when they can certainly know what to say to the people. I mean, what is the primary role of the media here? You get the information, you get it across, you educate the people, and then you provide basically that. So if this is about educating the people, if this is about carrying this as news, as a daily information to carry the people along, I believe that the government needs to get the media involved first and foremost. If this is a policy that we will get the point of. For instance, I gave you one of the hits I noticed about this deal or law, if you may. When you say, for instance, nobody's going to buy any product being produced in Nigeria. Let's say I'm using a Samsung phone. So if Samsung phone is produced in Nigeria, we're not going to buy any other Samsung phone or any products like that made outside of Nigeria. That's okay. However, when you now put a clause, except the person has a justifiable reason to buy that. It's like saying we have hospitals in Nigeria. We should not travel out to get those medical treatments because we need to build our country. Awesome, that's a good one. But how do we get people to understand that it's not enough to say don't travel out for hospitals because we have hospitals in Nigeria. So it's important to get the media fully on board so that the people, when we open our mouth to tell people this is what this Nigeria First policy is about, It's a noble one, like I said, but it's about getting people to understand thoroughly what it is. And it starts by the government getting the media organizations involved, practitioners directly involved in this. Like I said, having a press briefing is not enough, but getting the people on board so that when we understand what the government is saying in its actual sense, we can be in position to create programs. We can be in position even for copywriters, everybody will come on board. If you're discussing it as a subject or so an issue comes up, everybody will be on board and we can have the right communication out there. That's the major thing I think about that.
Plain to see that there's an obvious gap between the government, or at least the government spokespeople, and the media. So, in your given your experience, what do you think is the way forward? Do you think the media is in a position to call for probably a press conference to address these gaps? What are your thoughts?
Okay, like I mentioned earlier, let me see if I can break that down if we have the time. First, the, we are the fourth realm of the estate at the end of the day. So if whatever the government is doing, if the government wants it out there to get to the people, and it's important that I point this out. This is not about the government's media. This is about media beyond mainstream media, going to social media, going to the community levels. Now, the government, like I said, having a press briefing, okay, you've announced this. But those who are going to carry this product to the people is the media. Whether you talk about new media, whether you talk about mainstream media or on any platform you can think about. So I think that the government needs to call media organization, media owners, for instance, not just government, private media organizations, I mean, bring everybody on board, get the key promoters, you can call them influencers if you mean, on new media, get them on board. Even blogs, blog owners, there are critical blogs out there that you can factor in who seem to know what they are doing. They've been around for some time. Get them on board. Now, what's the essence? Sit down if you need to have a 3 days retreat or what have you with them. Break this down. Don't just announce a policy. Tell the media this is what government wants to do. This is break it down. Okay, in phases. The phase one is informing the people. The phase two is practical steps being taken, seeing the government actually releasing loans and all of those details. Basically, get the media organizations together somewhere, sit them down. I mean, this is a noble one, like I said, but you don't want someone to sit on TV or radio writing a piece on a new media on print, and then they're struggling for information on what to do, which is usually the case. So the government needs to sit down with media organizations because they are the ones that will drive this to the public, to the real people that needs to hear this. This is not, I'm not trying to shade the government media, but I'm saying this is not something you need to bring to um, government-owned media. Let me not mention their name. This is not something you need to bring to. This is something you need to get out there so that everybody who is practicing, every organization will be on board. Now, I also talked about policy documents, an actual policy document. Signature TV, for instance, does not need to call the minister or the commissioner at the state level or other organizations. What is this about? And we need to have these documents out there, authentically designed by the promoters of these ideas so that it can be better interpreted. So I think get the media organizations together, get them to buy into this. If you need to make funds available for them, do it. Whatever you need to do, that's the only way we can drive it. And also, if there are clauses, because sometimes when organizations begin to promote these things, the next thing you hear is, oh, you have done something wrong, or they find something to find the media organization for. So let's have a clear policy document and of course get the organizations on board thoroughly, not just by making an announcement. Because with the announcement, okay, we've heard, and that would just be it.
All right, Vivian, it's calling for press briefings and press conferences, those are the things
Mm,
that are part of, promoting a particular policy or a particular ideology from the government. So it's not something new, but one wonders, why was it omitted in this case? Do you think that there's even a remote possibility that government is possibly trying to sideline mainstream media, in favor of social media, of course,
yeah,
because you did mention you read the policy of an
yeah,
X handle of, I think,
yeah,
a
yeah,
spokesperson. So, do you think
yeah.
government is favoring social media, you know, against mainstream media? What are your thoughts?
You see, I'm laughing when you're asking this question, like, why did they not start that? That I've hammered on the policy documents for that drives this ideology, if you may. Now, here is the thing. Let me take your mind back a little quickly if we have a little bit of time. Um, you know, you remember there is this guy who started, Akin Padi, who started with not corruption not in my country. Then there's another one that the government then came up with. Lai Mohammed then tried to overshadow what this Akin Padi was doing. What's that statement? When they were talking about rebranding Nigeria, I think something that starts with you. I think there's something they said that point. It starts something maybe building Nigeria. I can't remember the exact statement now. This is nothing new. Remember late Dora, Professor Dora Akile, God bless her soul. Remember how they've tried several times to talk about rebranding Nigeria? That's where I'm going to. All of this, how far did it go? It boils down to people in government coming in, having maybe what I could say is a noble idea, but at the end of the day, not actually articulating the implementation process of these plans. That is the most important part. For instance, this is something you want Nigerians to buy into, right? Okay, that's fine. We have vehicle brand owners in this country. Can we start by saying how are those in the government? For they talked about one of the points the person raised on his ex hands, I can't remember his name, talked about having civil servants not by using not made in Nigeria. Can we begin to say, okay, where is the policy document? Because it boils down again to governments not properly articulating an idea and then pushing it out because they just want people to feel like they are doing something. And that is why these things always fail. How do you begin a process like this without bringing the major stakeholders? When I mean major stakeholders, brand owners, the professional economists we have in this country, media owners, yeah, and the people, notable individuals who will drive this process. Before announcing it, they should be on board. And you don't just call it, this is something they want to succeed anyway. I mean, we've had several things about rebranding Nigeria and several other government policies that never really sees the light of day. I don't know if this is one of those, but if this is one of those, well, we would not be surprised because already they are starting on a wrong foot. That's because you don't want to, if you want really, if this is a process you really want to drive, when it gets all the National Assembly gets signed by the president, then the next phase should have been getting the right stakeholders involved. You don't put the horse before, you don't put the cart before the horse, and somehow expect that maybe you expect that the cart is going to drive the horse instead. It doesn't really work that way. So again, it's nothing new about the Nigerian governance system. It's one of those things that usually happen. Like I talked about the whole rebranding process from Dara Kuyili to Lai Mohammed, and even attempting to shut down what the beautiful job Akin Fadayi Foundation was doing. And here we are. They don't support the private organizations who want to do something to boost the image of this country, to get it to where it should be, so that Nigerians can begin to feel comfortable owning this country and knowing what to do. They don't want to do that. They are not transparent. It's usually the norm. So we're not surprised that they didn't start by getting the actual stakeholders who will drive the process on board. It's the norm.
All right, Vivian. So you're saying it's possible there's a deliberate attempt to favor social media over mainstream media. You answer that, and then I have a follow-up question. You know what they say, that if the Muhammad doesn't go to the mountain goes to to Muhammad rather. Now it's as though media the media expects the government to call for a press briefing, call stakeholders, but we find ourselves in a situation where that has not been the case. Case in point, the Nigeria First policy. Now, do you think it's possible for media to reach out to government or to reach out to maybe a government agency like the National Orientation Agency to find out what's going on with the Nigeria First policy? After all, they are the government agency mandated to enlighten and educate public on government policies and things like that. So, two questions. Are you definite that there's a deliberate attempt to sideline print media, television, radio, mainstream media, and favor social media? And secondly, can the media be proactive and reach out to government agencies, and see how they can collaborate to bring this, make this implementation happen? What are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so let's start with if it's a deliberate attempt to use the social media to quote unquote drive this person. No, it's not. It's not. It's the same lackadaisical attitude towards everything, not taking Nigerians seriously because they know nothing will happen. Yeah, Nigerians wouldn't bother and all of that. Just there are several bills and laws that get towards rebranding or building this country or helping citizens to have a sense of ownership, like they say. It's the usual thing. There's no deliberate attempt. They just put it out there because they know that somehow someone is going to pick it up. You know, they just put it out there because they know that somehow someone is going to pick it up and then talk about it like we're doing now. And that's just what they want, free press. They don't need to pay for anything. They just want a situation where, okay, a signature TV is there now. They need information, so they will talk about it. And of course, every other brand. Like the truth is, if you talk about social media, a lot of people didn't even pay attention to this Nigeria First policy. If you on social media, if you ask me, that's because I did because I follow up these stories. Okay, I checked it out myself. That's why I found out. Okay, one or two organizations published it, and I was able to see what this other guy did on his handle. But beyond, so it's not because even if they wanted to get the social media on board, if they wanted to favor the social media, the National Orientation Agency, for instance, has a WhatsApp group where media organizations and we are all a lot of us are I'm on that group. But then you discover that giving information on tips and asking people to put it on their radio stations and TV stations, that is not enough. That is not going to do the job. Getting them to that's just showing a piecemeal to someone and say, okay, do what you want with this is not enough. I don't know how long the signature TV is going to deliberate on this, or anybody in social media is going to bother about it. Probably when there's an issue, maybe when the president takes off to France or somewhere, or the vice president or a minister travels, for health checks somewhere, government, non-government official, okay, we cannot begin to talk about, oh, what about this policy? Is it still a thing and all of that? So I don't think they favored anyone. It's just not properly planning, articulating deliverable plans on how to get people to get on by this. And then you also talked about if the media can go to the government. And no, the media shouldn't go to the government. The government has designed this policy. The government, if the government generally wants to drive it, yes, the government can. But I mean, an organization can actually decide to okay, with the National Orientation Agency, at the federal level, at the state level, or call one of these their aides to get the information, or even the minister's office or himself to get the information you want. But things don't work that way. But if you're allowing the media to get it, because maybe Signature TV, for instance, wants to discuss something and they need an information, okay, they call. But that is different from getting people on a conference table, a retreat, or workshop, or something, and saying, okay, this is what we want to do. And we really want the media to be part of it. So media, this is our document. This is what we want to do. We want to host you, sit down with you on a 3 days or 2 days, policy meeting to discuss Nigeria First policy. That's because we want this to be something that Nigerians will follow. And then we want this to run in the direction, this drive of promoting it to work to be to maybe to run for 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years consistently until it becomes a thing. you know. So, but I don't think anybody is going. I mean, are you going to be the one to call the government to see them? That so if you do that, another TV station does that, another radio station, another print media, it's not going to believe get the job done. So I still maintain that the government, if they really want to drive this, need to bring media owners together, host them, sit down and properly deliver this and provide a policy document that they can work with. And then let them know how they can also, what is the need for them. If you're burning diesel to make sure that your power is steady, or maybe you're using solar as a case, maybe you're a different power source, but you're paying for it. So even as a private media organization, you're not going to do everything free for the government. The much you can do is to bring up the issues and make news out of it. Honestly, it's still the government that needs to better articulate this than by getting the major stakeholders on board. There's government officials and what have you. Everyone needs to be on board. If this is even to the local government and the councillors, if they are serious about it, if they really want this to be something that can be a Nigerian thing. But again, who would know? Who would just say?
All right, Vivian, before we let you go, I want you to
Mhm,
speak to this particular concern. The
mhm.
NCC is a regulatory agency of some sort. But do you think that NCC has any kind of roles in improving engagements between government and media? Do they have any roles at all, even if it's a remote role in increasing engagement between media and government? Because it's obvious there's a gap here.
Well, when we talk about the NCC, yes, you can say they have major role. Yes, they have a major. They can. They have a major role to play. But again, so just to help the last question, the question you asked before, they see that, let's say the direct promoters of these Nigeria First policies seem not to have their hand on it. Now, instead of expecting media organizations to go to them to ask for questions and they provide them with piecemeals, I believe that the NCC, I believe that the Broadcast Organization of Nigeria, I believe that every organization with the communication and media, private and not private, government-owned organizations can actually synergize with the National Orientation Agency and the ministry to ensure that the right information gets out there, synergize with them and see how much they can come up with, and then bring the media and of course organize other stakeholders to be part of this process. That's what I honestly think.
All right. Vivian Douglas, communication consultant, thank you so much for your time and your perspective in this very topic. Thank you.
All right, thank you for having me, Signature.
All right, New Day continues right after this timeout. Please stay with us.
Signature TV. News in your pocket.